When something like this happens to you, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I didn't keep hoping it would happen. All the speeches that you've made up in your bedroom or in the bathtub go out of your mind completely. And you find that out of all the words in the world, just 2 stick in your mind. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me. Today we are looking at the Best Actress nominees for the period between August 1932 and December 1933. To make it easier, I will just refer to it as Best Actress 1933. The nominees were Katharine Hepburn in Morning Glory, May Robson in Lady for a Day, and Diana Wynyard in Cavalcade. As most other early Oscar lineups, this category is barely ever talked about and none of the nominated performances truly became a part of movie history. However, there is one aspect that obviously makes this an actually quite historic occasion, because it features the first Oscar-nominated and winning performance from a certain actress you might have heard of at some point.
You probably never heard of me because I'm just starting.
During almost all of Katharine Hepburn's important career milestones, the Academy was at her side. From a grand comeback after her box office poison period, to her first and last performances opposite longtime partner Spencer Tracy, her spinster period, and her last big hit almost 50 years after her start in Hollywood. And the Academy was also right there in the beginning and awarded her the Best Actress prize for her third movie ever. So it's certainly very interesting to take a closer look at the performance that began the love affair between the Academy and Katharine Hepburn, who, of course, still holds the record as the most awarded performer in Oscar history.
Thank you so much.
But of course, the presence of Katharine Hepburn is not supposed to cast her 2 co-nominees aside. Just because their names are not as well remembered as that of their famous competitor does not mean that their performances cannot be unexpected treasures and actually more deserving of the award.
Oh, Ellen, what lovely flowers.
They're from Bridges and Nina, with our very best wishes, I'm sure.
And beyond these specific performances, all 3 nominees provide a certain fascination because, having been nominated in one of Oscar's earliest years, they all stand for certain trends that were started and strengthened in the beginning of the Academy and set the course for the years to come.
I've seen them come, and I've seen them go. This is your moment. May God bless you while it lasts.
So with all this said, let's get right ahead to the first nominated performance.
A new season, presenting a sequence of 6 of Shakespeare's plays, is a powerful magnet. People queued for over 30 hours for gallery seats for the opening performance of The Two Gentlemen of Verona. Newlywed Patrick Allen and Sarah Lawson seen arriving. Diana Wynyard was there.
By now we have gotten used to it. Distinct British actors and actresses nominated at the Oscars for playing distinct British characters. From members of the working and upper class to symbols of strength during wartime and, of course, historic personalities such as politicians and royal figures.
Look at me! Look at me! How dare you! Close your eyes!
The intensity of this relationship varied from time to time. From the feeling that the Oscars became too generous to British productions, not even Ethel Barrymore could pretend to be happy about Hamlet's Oscar win, to periods when the Academy couldn't get enough of British performers and stories.
The majesty and grandeur of the English language is the greatest possession we have.
And all of this did not start suddenly at some point in the Academy's history, but began right away at some of the first awards. At the third presentation of the Oscars, George Arliss won the Best Actor award for playing British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. And 3 years later, the first true British invasion hit the Academy with the combination of Cavalcade and The Private Life of Henry VIII. With his Best Actor win, Charles Laughton became the second actor to win the Oscar for playing a famous real-life British figure in the Academy's 6-year existence, and laid the foundation for many other performers to follow his footsteps.
So what I say to you now, as your Queen...
Congratulations. Thanks.
The Queen of England does not attend exhibitions of public lewdness.
I will never abdicate. I am the Queen. I will die the Queen.
The Best Actress category in 1933 did maybe not feature a royal figure among its nominees, But if you are looking for the godmother of the Maggie Smiths, Glenda Jacksons, Greer Garsons, Judi Denchs, Vanessa Redgraves or Deborah Carrs in this category, you have to look no further than to Diana Wynyard. Okay, she was not the first British actress nominated in this category. That honor belongs to Lynn Fontanne, who was nominated 1 year prior for The Guardsman. But nationality was not a relevant part of her character, and due to her marriage to American actor Alfred Lunt, she was a regular presence on Broadway and American stages. Therefore, she was not prominently British in the same way as Diana Wynyard. And then of course Corinne Griffiths received a nomination for playing the very British Emma Hamilton in The Divine Lady, but as Griffiths was American and the movie a silent picture, we can skip her too. No, it was the work of English stage actress Diana Wynyard that created the prototype of the quintessential British character in this category. As Jane Marriott, a wife and mother of the British upper class, who sees the tragedies and the happiness of her life intertwined with important moments in British history. If you look at the history of the Best Picture category, you will probably not find a movie more British than Cavalcade, based on a popular play by Noel Coward. It covers the years from 1900 to 1932 and how events such as World War I or the sinking of the Titanic influenced the life of the Marriott family and their servants. To be honest, while I'm usually a big fan of historical epics, Cavalcade is not for me. It is in fact my least favorite Best Picture winner. The whole thing is a very lifeless string of historical events and out-of-place musical numbers that never fit into the story organically. We are not told of a family and their lives over time, but rather the script only wants to put as many historical events as possible in the story and simply uses the family as a plot device to string these events together. As it is, the plot of Cavalcade does not have anything interesting to offer or anything to say. Obviously, apart from the expected statement that everything was better in the past, when rich people were upstairs, the servants downstairs, and they weren't there at all. But obviously, audiences and critics in 1933 reacted much differently than me. Reviewers called it the best film of the year and one of the best to ever come to the screen, and that it wonderfully broke the limits of the stage to become a sweeping epic that few who saw would ever forget. It was furthermore described as vibrant and emotionally exciting, and Frank Lloyd was also praised for his masterful direction. And it was also popular with audiences as well as the movie industry. Cavalcade was a big financial success and won Oscars for Best Picture and Best Director. But the Academy did not only like the movie Cavalcade, but also its female star.
Well, it's too late now. I'm set in the habit of loving you. I shall never know the truth.
Diana Wynyard started acting in 1925 at London's Globe Theatre. She first appeared as understudies and in smaller roles, but quickly gained prominence as a talented artist and appeared in prominent roles at the West End and as a member of the Liverpool Repertory Company. An important step in her career came when she appeared in London in a one-night benefit performance of The Devil Passes. Due to her acclaimed performance, she was invited to reprise her role when the play moved to a Broadway engagement in 1932. Her stage work in New York then caught the attention of MGM, which, like all other studios, was always looking for new and experienced theatre actors who could also make it on a big screen. And so Diana Wynyard made her movie debut the same year in Rasputin and the Empress. While this movie is largely forgotten, this was probably one of the most challenging movie debuts imaginable, as she had to share the screen with three acting giants and notorious scene stealers: John, Lionel and Ethel Barrymore. Critics immediately became interested in this new English actress and stated that she beautifully held her own against the Barrymores without ever losing her natural poise. While working on Rasputin and the Empress, Diana Wynyard was also cast in the part of Jane Marriott in Cavalcade, often working on the two pictures on the same day. And while the earlier released Rasputin and the Empress created a first wave of excitement, Cavalcade was seen as her A Star is Born moment. Diana Wynyard was described as the standout of the cast, infinitely appealing and touching and a positive revelation, restrained, magnificent, dignified and thoroughly feminine. Critics said that her performance was in every detail that of a true artist, and she was hailed as one of Hollywood's greatest discoveries in years, whose work would be seen as the definite portrait of the gentlewoman everywhere.
Something seems to have gone out of all of us, and I'm not sure that I like what's left.
And of course, she was also called the next Garbo, which maybe should just be seen as a description for every new actress during the 30s. But most of all, the success of Cavalcade and the seriousness of her role combined with her previous success on the stage gave her a distinct aura of a dramatic prestige actress, with what many hoped a bright future in Hollywood.
I suppose this war will end someday.
Why, of course, in a few months.
Perhaps it'll be over before you get there.
It was assumed that she would follow the footsteps of other celebrated stage performers and change the focus of her work to the screen. Just like Helen Hayes, another giant of the stage who had won an Oscar a year before and was now starring in A Farewell to Arms. And indeed, the movie career of Diana Wynyard does resemble that of Helen Hayes in certain ways, but not in the way Hollywood had hoped for. Both actresses followed their first dates with Oscar with various movie roles, but after a while their screen appearances began to decrease and ultimately they only appeared sporadically in movies or on TV. It's clear that both of them preferred the stage to the screen and spent most of their professional energy on this medium. Unlike Helen Hayes, however, Diana Wynyard did not make an Oscar comeback during her career, but she did originate a part on screen that was turned into an Oscar-winning role a couple of years later.
What do you suppose the servants are for?
To serve us, I suppose, dear.
What do you suppose the servants are for?
To do things, to serve us, I suppose.
Are you suggesting this is a knife I have in my hand? Have you gone mad, my sane husband?
Are you suggesting that this is a knife I hold in my hand? Have you gone mad, my husband?
However, by this time, Oscar had already forgotten about Diana Wynyard and she obviously never intended to return to Hollywood, saying, "I have never been especially interested in motion pictures because I was told at home that I did not photograph well, and that she missed the presence of an audience." After World War II, she was one of the primary stage actresses in England and appointed Commander of the British Empire in 1953. She later had a supporting part in the TV production Meyerling opposite Audrey Hepburn and played her last film role in Island in the Sun in 1957 as the mother of James Mason. She unfortunately died from renal disease in 1964 at the age of 58. But let's focus on her celebrated performance in Cavalcade. The Oscar nomination for her work shows that the Academy responded very favorably to certain characters right away. In this case, it is the supporting and suffering wife and mother. This archetype has been a part of the Best Actress category since its inauguration and continues to be a part of it in some way or another to this day.
That your wife doesn't write?
In 1933, the Academy was still in the process of finding itself, and the selection of Best Actress winners and nominees shows as many different styles and attitudes as the political and social atmosphere of the late 20s and early 30s, when established traditions clashed with waves of new trends. Movies were also caught in this uncertainty, tackling more daring themes than maybe ever before, but soon limited again by the restrictions of the Hays Code. And so it's not surprising that in the early years of the Academy, we see nominations for so-called bad girls or women enjoying more freedom and liberties than ever before, but also for characters who represented motherhood and the familiarity of traditions. A look back at simpler and apparently better times with clear role allocations. And the character of Jane fits right into these themes. The audience follows her life for more than 30 years, but she never becomes an independent character, only existing in relation to her family. She worries about her husband going to war, she worries about her son going to war, she is sad when Queen Victoria dies, and she is sad when her sons die. Of course, I don't want to dismiss Diana Wynyard's performance based on the character she's playing or the movie she is appearing in. The suffering wife might be a stereotypical role, but it can still offer a lot of opportunities for an actress. And at the same time, just because Cavalcade itself lacks ambition and life, this does not mean that it cannot contain an exciting and challenging performance. And I want to say right away that from a physical point of view, Diana Wynyard flawlessly fits into the environment of Cavalcade's upstairs world. Her body language smoothly expresses a certain aura of superiority without appearing snobbish or out of place. There is a natural sense of belonging to this upper class in her work, of inhabiting its unwritten rules and traditions.
No servants, no food in the house, no nothing. Oh, well, that awful journey was never going to end. Oh!
Her performance is therefore always at its best in smaller, almost throwaway moments that don't put her in the foreground but instead happen casually as part of her character. Like quietly disapproving an inappropriate emotional outburst by one of her servants, or refusing a hand when she's denied the respect that she feels entitled to.
Pleased to see you again, milady, I'm sure. Welcome to our oval. Oh. Proud and naughty, are we?
Alfred, stop it, stop it! Ellen, dear Ellen, I'm so very, very sorry. I quite understand, quite. I'll come and see you again soon.
And what I also want to praise is the maturity of her work. I was actually surprised to find out that Diana Wynyard was only 1 year older than co-nominee Katharine Hepburn. The nature of their parts, the young ingenue and the mistress of a big household with 2 children, obviously strengthens this effect, but Diana Wynyard again handles these tasks of the character very well. Her role as a wife and mother is never doubted, and she displays the upper-class mentality of her part very well, showing a certain affection for her children and her husband, but always in a restrained and calm manner without any grand emotions.
Oh, Joey, you awful child, how dare you make such a noise? Oh, darling, you haven't got a pain, have you? I want to see you here. Little boys mustn't. What would you say if I spanked you soundly and sent you to bed? I would say old woman that lived in the shoes. And what would you say if I spanked you again for calling your mother an old woman? I wouldn't say nothing.
However, while her personality suits the part of Jane maybe well, Diana Wynyard's acting unfortunately does little to illuminate her as a character, and actually harms any chance for Jane to become a three-dimensional creation. Even though primarily a stage actress, Diana Wynyard does not exaggerate her performance, but did adjust her style for the camera. However, she unfortunately has absolutely no sense on how to make that style seem natural.
Play louder! Play louder! Soldiers of the Queen, wounded and dying, suffering for their Queen.
Her whole performance feels strangely artificial, with no resemblance to a real human being. She cannot make any of her lines seem to be created by Jane, but instead always remains an actress delivering written words.
How sweet of them to think of giving us flowers on New Year's Eve.
Rather touching.
So touching that I almost want to cry. Take care of yourself, my darling. I felt you go when I said that bit about Joey. Oh, Robert! Robert! Starvation, disease, and horror. And Robert, I can't bear to think of it, and I can't stop thinking.
She gets no guidance from director Frank Lloyd on how to make her work feel less affected and stilted, and every dramatic situation in Jane's life gets the same reaction from Diana Wynyard. A vague stare with overly dramatic line readings that denies any plausibility.
What is it? What's happened?
You needn't worry about Fanny and Joe. You won't be able to come back. He's dead. Peace and happiness for you, my darling.
Please God.
Peace and happiness, always.
There is furthermore no development in those reactions. It doesn't matter if Jane is reacting to the announcement of war, the death of her son, or is simply scared about what could happen to her husband. No matter if it's anxiety, sadness, shock, or determination. The reaction is always the same.
Oh, how wonderful our marriage has been.
Has. Give the future a chance.
We don't know if there is to be a future. Now, I feel listless and sad. As though her death were a personal loss.
It's a style that resembles her famous contemporary Norma Shearer, who also used this one-stare-fits-all kind of acting, but Norma Shearer had the necessary screen presence and star power to make it work. Diana Wynyard unfortunately remains pale and uninteresting throughout Cavalcade.
Drink to the war then. I'm not going to, I can't. Rule Britannia, send us victorious, happy and glorious. Drink, Joey. You're only a baby still, but you're old enough for war. Drink as the Germans are doing tonight, to victory and defeat and stupid, tragic sorrow, but don't ask me to do it, please.
Diana Wynyard obviously also gets no help from the script, which drops her very often during the second half of the movie and only uses the Marriott family as a plot device for its presentation of historic moments. But she does not even try to give any depth to her part. Nothing that happens to Jane has any effect on her. The tragedies of her life come and go without touching her beyond specific scenes. The audience might follow Jane for more than 30 years, but it's impossible to see any kind of development in her.
Let us drink to our sons who made part of the pattern, and to our hearts that died with them. Let us drink to the spirit of gallantry and courage that made a strange heaven out of unbelievable hell. And let us drink to the hope that one day this country of ours, which we love so much, will find dignity and greatness and peace again.
The thing is, as lifeless as Diana Wynyard feels, it is not difficult to imagine her as an engaging stage presence. And I can also easily see her as an interesting movie presence with a bit more experience in front of the camera. But what could have been an interesting study of human development unfortunately turned into a flat and artificial portrayal, and Diana Wynyard's acting lets every opportunity go by and actively harms any chance for Jane to become engaging or real. So hopefully the next nominee has more to offer.
Hollywood, 1933. May Robson, 50 years an actress, is honor guest at banquet. Lionel Barrymore makes this presentation.
To May Robson, congratulations on your 50 years devoted to entertaining the world on the stage and screen. And it's signed by all the executives and stars in the business. Beautiful, May.
Thank you.
May I add my congratulations?
Thank you, dear. I'll keep it all my life.
If Diana Wynyard established a distinct British presence in the Best Actress category, co-nominee May Robson also stands for certain trends that we see from time to time. She's the veteran who gets one moment in the sun and the typical supporting player who receives the rare invitation into the leading category. But how did she get to this point? May Robson was born in Australia in 1858, which should make her the earliest born acting nominee ever. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. In 1883, she started her acting career on the stage in New York, and she quickly found prominence as a comedian and character actress, and even created her own theatrical company in 1911. In 1927, she went to Hollywood and at the age of 69 started a movie career as a dependable, familiar and busy supporting player.
Maybe some of you people listening in dream about coming to Hollywood. And maybe some of you get pretty discouraged. Well, when you do, you just think about me. It took me over 60 years to get here, but here I am, and here I mean to stay.
In 1933 alone, besides Lady for a Day, her IMDb page lists 10 more movie appearances. 2 of them opposite co-nominee Diana Wynyard in Men Must Fight and Reunion in Vienna. Overall, she appeared in over 60 movies during her time in Hollywood. In 1938, she famously also supported her other 1933 co-nominee Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby. And other well-remembered parts include supporting roles in A Star is Born, Anna Karenina or Four Daughters. May Robson kept acting right until her death at the age of 84 in 1942 after the release of her last film Joan of Paris. In the career of May Robson, 1933 was a very special year as it marked the 50th anniversary of her work in show business. And what better way to celebrate than with an Oscar nomination for her work as Apple Annie in Frank Capra's popular hit Lady for a Day.
Hey, where do you think you're going? Don't tell me to
shut up, you pasty-faced hallooers!
May Robson's nomination was warmly received by the press, and according to some outlets, she was also the runner-up to eventual winner Katharine Hepburn. She was a very popular presence in Hollywood, the kind of instantly recognizable performer who always delivers appealing work and who deserves this kind of attention at least once during her long career. Her nod for Lady for a Day obviously also made her the oldest Best Actress nominee so far, but she would hold that title for more than 30 years until it was taken over by Edith Evans for The Whisperers. With her rising level of recognition, many in Hollywood saw May Robson as the natural successor to Marie Dressler, who would die from cancer 1 year later. After her death, the press wrote, "When Marie Dressler answered her last curtain call, we expressed the opinion that she had left a niche that no character actress would ever fill. After having acclaimed the portrayal of the role of Apple Annie, there was a feeling that we had been a little hasty in voicing this belief." May Robson was called a complete master of emotions, who can cry and laugh with equal facility, and furthermore possesses the happy knack for sharing these moods with her audience in a way only Marie Dressler could as well. Both actresses actually start together in Dinner at 8.
In here, Carlotta.
Will that be about all, ma'am?
I hope so.
Thank you, ma'am.
Millicent! Ducky! I'm never so glad to see anyone in all my life, my dear.
However, even with her Oscar nomination, May Robson did not become the kind of unusual leading lady that Marie Dressler became in the final years of her life thanks to the success of Min and Bill. May Robson remained the typical character actress who shined on the side and let others take the central spotlight. So how did she manage to get a Best Actress nomination in that supporting career? Apparently, director Frank Capra initially wanted to cast, who else, Marie Dressler in Lady for a Day. But MGM did not intend to lend out its biggest star. However, the studio did not have such qualms about May Robson, who was also their contract player, and lent her out to Columbia instead for the part of Apple Annie.
Hello, Annie.
Hello, Joe. Didn't keep you waiting, did I?
You got a great racket, Annie. Get a couple of more suckers like the dude, you can retire in a year.
Oh, pull up your chin. Happy you're liable to step on it.
Yeah, never mind the change.
God bless you.
Lady for a Day then premiered in September 1933 and was popular with both critics and audiences, and ultimately received 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Critics described the movie as one of the most entertaining of the year and a fantastic yet real and human fairy tale.
Oh, that's Mother. She recognizes me. She recognizes me.
The success of Lady for a Day obviously also rubbed off on May Robson. Playing the central character of Apple Annie and therefore the titular Lady for a Day, critics agreed that the success of the story rested on her shoulders and that she was beautifully up to the task, applauding her work as the greatest characterization of her career that should endear her to all, and she was called outstanding in her sympathetic portrayal, never forced, never overdrawn, but ever effective. Everyone agreed that her excellent portrayal of a colorful character propelled May Robson to new movie stardom.
I won't go till I get my letter.
I'll be compelled to call the police.
Well, call the police. Call anybody you like. I'm not a criminal.
And I agree that May Robson is indeed a delight in Lady for a Day. Her scenes in the beginning of the movie offer probably the strongest moments in this year's lineup. Her Annie, contrary to Diana Wynyard's Jane, feels like a living, breathing and multidimensional creation, because May Robson feels completely natural and at home with every aspect of Annie's character. She can be short-tempered, humorous, mischievous, or appealingly honest without ever losing the core of Annie's personality.
Thank you, Oscar.
That bunch is going to cost you 50 cents.
50 cents? Why, you never charge me more than 2 bits.
It's conditions, Annie. People don't leave things in their rooms anymore. Do you know it's got so bad I've got to go and buy my own toothpaste?
Why, that's awful, Oscar.
May Robson constantly changes the tone in her performance without making it feel like an interruption, finding humor in serious moments or switching from moving sincerity to angry outbursts in mere seconds, but never dropping Annie in the process.
I wasn't feeling so good Saturday.
Drinking again, huh?
Who? Me? Why, dude, I ain't touched a drop in weeks.
Well, cut it out. Doc Michel says your kidneys are all shot.
Dr. Michel's an old fool. He don't know what he's talking about.
Come on, Annie.
Oh, will you do it for me? I won't bother you anymore.
Take her out of here.
Honestly,
come on, Annie.
I won't.
You might have to run in.
You got to tell her.
Come on, never mind.
She can't find me.
Come on, get out.
He can't.
And she also gets extra points for playing a believable drunk in a time when many others played such moments purely for laughs or as a caricature.
I thought so. On a bat again. Where are your apples?
Come in. The butler will take your things. Didn't know I had a butler, did you, dude? I got lots of butlers. Millions of them.
Where you been, you old buzzard? I've been looking for you all day.
So good of you to come down for the hunting season. Everyone always comes down for the hunting season.
Dude, let's get out of here. Every time she gets crocked, she starts pulling that society stuff.
And May Robson also thankfully never tries to turn Annie's true character into a nice little lady in those early moments, asking for the audience's sympathy. She's not afraid to show Annie as a stubborn, rough and maybe even rude woman who doesn't want anyone to love or even like her. However, it is still completely plausible that so many other characters feel an affection for Apple Annie and want to help her out, simply because May Robson brings a certain charm to her role that shines even when Annie is at her lowest.
Sure thing. How's business?
Not so good over at the Apollo.
Well, go over to the casino. They got a hit over there.
That's all? I'll go right over. Thanks.
Yeah. You know, if you change your tune once in a while, perhaps you'd have better luck, huh?
So the first 20 minutes of Lady for a Day present some wonderful moments by May Robson, not only showing insight into the daily life of Apple Annie, but also her secret second life. Annie has a daughter that is being raised at a Spanish convent and thinks that her mother is a rich socialite who is too ill to make a voyage across the sea. This gives May Robson a chance for the almost obligatory secret heart of gold moments, but she again does not make them too obvious or a pure plea for sympathy.
Breaks my heart that I have not been able to see you all these years. But Dr. Michel, the old crab, still says it would be fatal for me to make an ocean voyage. Your stepfather thought he might make the trip this year. You didn't know you had a stepfather, did you?
The story then takes the expected turn as Annie's daughter Louise informs her that she will soon come to New York together with her rich fiancé and his father, who all want to meet her rich mother. But while this turn of events might be expected, the treatment of May Robson's character is surprising and unfortunate. To get Annie out of her troubles, Lady for a Day displays the unmistakable Capra touch and almost completely drops her character in the process.
What are they doing now? They're kissing. Is Annie happy?
Yeah, she's crying.
All of Annie's friends work together to help her create a charade of being the rich socialite she has written about to her daughter. But this means that the focus of the movie from now on lies on all the trouble her friends have to get through, which also includes kidnapping various journalists to prevent the story from coming out. But this also means that Apple Annie plays almost no role in her own story anymore. She becomes a passive side character who nervously hopes that everything will go well while also enjoying the time with her daughter.
Mother.
Yes, my sweet.
You don't think anything can happen, do you?
Happen?
Oh, I guess I've just been foolish. Maybe it's because I've been wishing so hard. Mother, did you ever wish for anything so hard that...
Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen.
There is a sad irony in the fact that May Robson's one breakthrough into the rank of leading actresses actually came with a role that might not be much larger than many of the others she played in her life. I don't want to call it a supporting role, as Apple Annie is clearly the central and most relevant character to the story, but she is almost dropped completely before the halfway mark of the movie and only makes some occasional returns, and even some media outlets in 1933 called it a secondary role.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply flattered.
That is certainly annoying, because Apple Annie is the most interesting character in the movie, and I would love to spend more time with her than Lady for a Day is giving us. And what is even more annoying is that not only has the movie forgotten about Apple Annie, May Robson herself also completely changes the tone of her performance. Apple Annie does not only get a big apartment and a new look, by this guy by the way, who really should get a movie of his own.
Oh, wait a minute, he can't go in there.
It's all right, dude. It's all right.
But she also gets a whole new personality.
It's going to be funny when she finds out her mother is Apple Annie. Why don't you laugh, huh? Why don't you laugh? If anything should happen, you'd never hate your mother.
Oh, Mommy, don't say things like that, darling. Oh, please don't say things like that.
Is the Count still in the drawing room?
It's clear that Annie needs to adjust her behavior to make her daughter believe her story, but there is no process in this change, just a result. Annie is a new person from one moment to the next. There's not even a My Fair Lady-like training montage which could have provided endless opportunities for comedy, drama and character development.
I'll never forget you for this, dude.
The movie gives us this short scene that might explain this sudden shift,
I remember Annie when she looked like that all the time.
but we never get any further insight into this. We never learn more about Annie's background or about her past. We only get these two completely opposite characters without any connection. Not even later scenes, when Annie's story is in danger of being exposed as a lie, are used by May Robson to bring the old Annie back.
What are we going to do? What if the police should come here? What'll I say to the Count? What'll I say to Louise?
Now be quiet, Annie. The police aren't coming here.
I know Louise, poor dear Louise. She's such a sweet girl, lovely girl. Don't you think she's lovely, Judd?
Why, of course, of course.
But I do have to say that, even if May Robson gets shockingly little to do in the second half of Lady for a Day, and even if her characterization is not consistent, I do enjoy both extremes of her work. Her refined Annie is not completely logical, but May Robson is moving and tender in her scenes opposite Annie's daughter, and also absolutely heartbreaking when she is close to revealing the truth. Again, it doesn't really make sense for Annie to act this way, but May Robson makes you forget about all this.
You knew nothing about us. It would have been terrible if after they were married you had found out that her mother was someone you would be ashamed of. Someone that even she would have been ashamed of.
Still, it's hard not to think of this as a performance of wasted opportunities, both by Capra and by Robson. She certainly did the best she could under the circumstances, but I just wish she had been A, given more to do, and B, been allowed to make it more consistent. Still, it is a moving, effective and memorable performance with the right mix of comedy and drama that succeeds within its limitations, but also doesn't present a completely logical character and suffers from the way Apple Annie is written and presented. May Robson clearly understood her character and had the necessary quality to bring her to life, but we unfortunately only get a glimpse of what could have been. And finally, let's take a look at the winning performance.
She looks a fright, her manner is objectionable, and she has no talent.
She runs the gamut of emotions, from A to B.
She can show no emotion except by dilating her nostrils.
That's what they were saying about her 60 years ago.
Somehow, the early years of Katharine Hepburn's career are so well known for her failures and, of course, her box office poison period, that it is easy to forget the big sensation she caused with her arrival in Hollywood, and how her unique style and acting talent overcame the fact that she was seen right from the start as an outsider by many in the industry.
You think it's fair to leave me alone for hours?
Oh, don't be absurd, Kit. It was only for 10 minutes. Besides, I must give a little attention to my guests.
And I drifted into acting. I loved the sort of giving little plays with a little theatre that I had to my younger brothers and sisters. And I did those plays. But I can't remember. I really don't know why. I think I drifted into it.
Like many other actresses that came to Hollywood during these years, Katharine Hepburn began her career on the stage. Still, even if she came from the theatre and it was a play that later helped her to return to Hollywood, she does not really have the reputation of a stage actress. The longevity of her movie career saw her growing old in front of the camera and has connected her closely with the big screen forever. And even if she started on the stage, she was not regarded as a kind of prestige actress who chose to grace the screen with her presence, like previous winner Helen Hayes, co-nominee Diana Wynyard, or later performers such as Louise Reiner or Elisabeth Bergner.
Unless you could teach me to forget a banished father, you must not learn me how to remember any extraordinary pleasure.
Katharine Hepburn made her Broadway debut in 1928, but things did not go totally smoothly as she was fired various times and mainly worked as an understudy, occasionally told that she just didn't have the talent or wasn't very good in her parts.
You said you were fired, though. I can't imagine anybody having the nerve.
No. I was fired from another thing.
Yeah, but why?
I was fired because I wasn't very good.
Oh, is that the only reason?
Yes, well, that's usually the reason you're fired. Yeah. Leslie Howard fired me. He said, get rid of that kid fast.
What'd you do to him?
Well, I didn't do anything to him, but I was an inch taller than he was.
That's unforgivable.
You got fired off it.
But that was because I think I wasn't very good, or I was too tall, or they thought I was too fast, or they just didn't like me.
Thought you were too fast? In what sense? In the sense
Well,
of
I talk fast, and I talk loud, but I had wonderful thoughts going on inside my head.
How did you react to being fired? Did you blame them or blame
Didn't
yourself?
like it.
Yeah.
No, I think I blamed them. I think I was right, too.
You think they were schmucks?
Well, I thought they wanted something typical.
Her breakthrough on the stage finally came in 1932 with a part in The Warrior's Husband that perfectly captured her energetic and unique personality, and she was called brilliant, fascinating and delightfully boyish.
What did you have to offer as an actress when you were starting off?
Well, what have I got to offer as an actress now? You tell me. I think it's a sort of idiot's profession.
We've got the evidence now for what you've got to offer. Then there wasn't any evidence, was there?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows why people look at someone? I think it's a question of charisma. I've seen kids that I thought, oh, look at him, look at her. Do you know? I don't know what it is that is the quality that makes one into a freak that is fascinating.
But if you didn't think much of your own looks, what was your faith in yourself based on?
I have no idea myself. I didn't have anything else. But what was I going to do? This was mine.
After this, things finally improved. Like Diana Wynyard, Katharine Hepburn caught the eye of Hollywood with her stage work and would soon make her big screen debut in A Bill of Divorcement. But unlike Diana Wynyard, she only had to make her debut opposite one of the Barrymores.
What are you looking for?
Somebody's movement. Meg, my own darling.
Directed by George Cukor, who would also become a lifelong friend and occasional director of Katharine Hepburn, A Bill of Divorcement was a first-class entry into filmmaking, and her unique style took Hollywood by storm.
And I'm just curious, when you first got out there, if you settled in and suddenly...
Oh, I thought it was great. I liked it.
You did?
And I like movie making. I don't like the theater.
Really?
No, I think the theater's more because you have to stay up late to do it. And I like movies. But that was great. You had to go to work at 6 o'clock. Then it was fine with me. I was happy to go to work at 6 o'clock as long as I could go home at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. Movies are made in little bits and pieces. When you were working in the theater, you would work on the stage, you would develop an act, a character, and you would spend whatever, 90 minutes or 2 hours with an audience. Did you find it difficult at first working in those little bits and pieces?
No, I liked all that.
Really?
Oh, yes.
And
like movies, like everything about movies.
Right from the beginning?
Right from the beginning, yes. I do, and everything about the theater is doomed with me because I'm an early riser and I like to go to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock.
Kate did maybe not have the central role in A Bill of Divorcement, but as the daughter of a man who escaped from a mental hospital, she made a definite impression. Critics called her an astounding new screen presence, a genius who was compared to Sarah Bernhardt, and everyone agreed that she stole the picture not only by her acting talent, but also her sheer screen presence, and that her dynamic way of sweeping the audience off their feet was a cinematic event in itself. Right from the start, her no-nonsense approach to her role, her peculiar body language and one-of-a-kind vocals, that clear picture of a woman not asking for the viewer's sympathy made her one of the most unique performers seen on the screen in a long time.
It's against my principles to kneel down and say that I'm a miserable sinner. I'm not miserable and I'm not a sinner.
Kate, being Kate, was not intimidated by her famous co-stars or the pressure of her first movie role, and instead handled the making of the picture with her usual self-assuredness and afterwards signed a contract with RKO. She next did Christopher Strong, which was her first true starring vehicle, and again capitalized on her reputation as a modern, independent woman, and gave us this iconic outfit. Critics were split in this case, some praising her work, others dismissing it, but Kate immediately reached the peak of her early success in Hollywood with her next two movies, Morning Glory and Little Women.
I suppose I shall never be wonderful. Not wonderful like them. But I've something very wonderful in me, you'll see.
Looking back, it's easy to ask why the Academy did not nominate Katharine Hepburn for one of the most iconic roles of her career and what many considered the definite interpretation of the beloved show Marge. And that's a good question. Little Women broke opening records at Radio City Music Hall and was among the 10 biggest box office hits of the year. It was also nominated for Best Picture and Best Director and won the Oscar for its screenplay. And on top of that, Katharine Hepburn got glowing reviews for her role, which called her nothing less than superb and that no other present-day actress could have been better suited for the part.
No, we never can be boy and girl again, Laurie. Those happy old times can't come back. And we shouldn't expect them to.
And you went back to Broadway, and with all this enormous...
Then I did Little Women,
Yeah.
which was a really good picture. And for which I should have won the award, you know, for the two of them, not just for one, because that was a difficult, not a tricky performance. It was a true American New England girl, and for which I think I was perfectly cast. She said modestly, but I do. And I think it's a memorable picture for which George Cukor should have gotten 20 awards.
However, it seems that Little Women was more seen as the moment Katharine Hepburn arrived as a star, and her work was a promise fulfilled. Artistically, there was more interest in the performance that premiered earlier in the year, and for many saw the arrival of Katharine Hepburn as an actress. Because even if Morning Glory is mostly remembered today as the movie that won Katharine Hepburn her first Oscar, and pretty much for nothing else, her work as a naive, young and aspiring actress made a big impression in 1933 and was undoubtedly seen as the best work she did that year and so far.
I know that I'm a great actress.
No, please be quiet.
I'm the greatest young actress in the world.
Take
and I'm
it
going to
easy.
go on getting greater and greater and greater, you'll see.
Morning Glory was apparently initially intended as a vehicle for Constance Bennett. Rumors say that Katharine Hepburn saw the script too and insisted that the role should be hers. Whatever it was, it cannot be denied that the part does seem perfect for her at this stage in her career. A young wannabe actress who thinks very highly of her own talents, only to fail again and again before finally having her big breakthrough on Broadway. Oscar voters couldn't ask for a better opportunity.
Everything's perfectly glorious, isn't it?
Very early in your career, you won an Oscar. Were you playing a girl pretty much like yourself? Was
I
that
don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, she was poor. She wasn't arrogant. At least she didn't realize that she was arrogant. Just the way I don't realize that I'm arrogant, and yet I see signs of it every
So when I
once in a while.
wanted to have lessons, I had no money. And they were, you know, it was about $10 an hour or something like that. It was quite expensive, Frances stuff. She was the best teacher there was.
I want to ask you if you could give me a lesson every day right off.
But
I want to pay. Not at once, because I've only money enough for a certain length of time. But I'd plan to go to the best teacher I could find and arrange to pay later.
But the reason for her success was not just the role itself, but how Kate brought this character to life. In 1933, Kate's interpretation of Eva Lovelace felt exciting, new, almost unprecedented. Reviews for her work were overwhelmingly positive, describing her as sensational and that she gave one of the screen's greatest performances. That she displayed the kind of magnetism only few actresses in Hollywood history so far possessed, and that her performance made viewers realize the power of talking pictures. Hers was called the most outstanding individual screen work of 1933, and that for poignant beauty, tenderness and a superb understanding of the tragic course of high-hearted but frightened youth at grips with life, Katharine Hepburn's playing in Morning Glory is unsurpassed.
Yes, but suppose I do go on tonight and I'm not wonderful. Then everything's gone. If I can't act, there's nothing left.
However, it was not just Kate's acting talent that made such a big impression in 1932 and 1933, but her whole persona. Connecticut-born Katharine Hepburn appeared completely exotic on and off the screen. And of course, this exotic aura and unusual screen presence meant that she was also considered the next Garbo, because apparently you can never have enough Garbos. And for some reason, the Academy always preferred the new version to the original. Greta Garbo herself starred in Queen Christina that year, so the Academy could have had the real thing, but we know how that worked out.
I think it was being born at the right year for my personality. You know, the fans came in, the low heels came in, the terrible woman came in who spoke her mind. I was born absolutely at the right time. And I'm going to die, not a moment too soon. You know, that's the story of me. Great timing.
The acclaim for her work in Morning Glory, plus her other big success with Little Women, made Kate a pretty easy favorite for the Oscar, with only May Robson being considered a potential threat. And so this category came down to the kind of race that we have seen countless times: the new kid versus the veteran. Occasionally, the veteran does triumph in the situation. In one case they even tied, and interestingly enough, Kate has been in both situations, but in most cases, the Academy sees its award as an investment. A newcomer is the future. The veteran mostly has had success already and does not really need the award anymore. And especially in its early years, the Academy was still sorting out who should receive its annual honor. It awarded some real stars in its early years, maybe to strengthen its own credibility by being associated with these big names, but these early years also saw performers being recognized for making big first impressions on the screen. It was a pat on the back, an official recognition, and most likely a statement of hope that they would continue their work in Hollywood and deliver not only critically praised work, but also bring in a good deal of cash. Which obviously did not always pay off. I made a whole video about that. The desire to invest in the future, to award a young star, even overcame the fact that, while Katharine Hepburn was exciting and new, she was not really popular within the industry that awarded her. Even back then, newspapers reported the muted applause when Katharine Hepburn was announced as the Best Actress winner. Kate's famous aversion to stardom, her unwillingness to be a part of Hollywood and the publicity machine, her reputation as a young up-and-comer who openly spoke her mind and had her own ideas about pretty much everything, right down to her decision to almost only wear pants. All of this is almost a cliché today, but it is based on truth. Right from the beginning of her career, Katharine Hepburn refused to play by the rules, no matter how it would be perceived.
I was lucky to be born with a combination of qualities that were apparently interesting in the early 30s when I began to sort of look around and be noticed.
Yeah.
Even before that, you know, when I was a kid in a golf tournament and I've sunburned a lot and got blisters and I had to have two caddies, one to carry an umbrella, and I'd get the headline on the sport page, Hartford youngster. Do you know what I mean? I was just lucky to apparently be colorful.
In this way, both Katharine Hepburn and later Louise Reiner actually were the next Garbos. But only the original was truly untouchable and allowed to be alone and reject publicity. These next Garbos did not have the same luxury. They were maybe praised and considered exotic, but also expected to be more accessible. Maybe a Garbo on the screen, but a typical starlet off the screen. And when they refused, they had to pay the price.
Puts terrible things in the newspaper, has millions of reporters annoying me.
Kate was in fact openly criticized for her off-screen attitude, and the media even wondered if her cry for privacy was not in fact a cry for extra attention. Kate was somebody completely different, but as Louise Reiner would also learn a couple of years later, difference is only exciting for a short amount of time before it becomes suspect.
These words by her idol, George Bernard Shaw, could have been written for and about Katharine Hepburn. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, make them.
For every article that praised Kate at the beginning of her career, there was another one that questioned her acting talent or star power, or raised doubts about her outspoken personality and her unwillingness to play by the rules of show business. And obviously, her looks also were a constant discussion in the media, some stating that her beauty has the strength of a supple steel blade, whatever that means. And while an actress like Diana Wynyard was praised for her beauty and her feminine qualities, Kate was mostly referred to as boyish, eccentric, peculiar, and unusual.
That may be the reason I've never met the man I might be in love with. And it certainly is the reason I've got to keep fit.
But in 1933, Kate's attitude and what the media called her electric personality was still interesting and new enough to overcome any dislike in the industry. She did not possess any of the instant charm that many other newcomers who were honored by the Academy displayed in their personalities and their acting. And also none of the expected gratitude. She was the first Best Actress winner who didn't attend the ceremony or appeared in publicity reels, and the press also noted that the thank you telegram after the awards was most likely not sent by Kate herself.
Why don't I go to the Academy Awards? It has to be that I'm afraid I'm going to lose, doesn't it? I don't approve of my attitude of not going. I think that's cheap of me. Second rate not to go. It's a group activity.
If Academy members back then had known that Kate would not attend the show, maybe it would have influenced the voting. But as it is, her win was not surprising and, out of this lineup, is also very understandable. Not only because she was the future for Hollywood, she was also the nominee with the most prominent role in this lineup. Critics bluntly stated that she was Morning Glory, and the main reason to see it, while Diana Wynyard and May Robson had much less significant parts in their movies, often dropping out of the story for long stretches. And finally, her role is basically an Oscar dream. She plays an actress, 3 out of the first 9 Best Actress winners played actresses, she gets to be drunk, and she gets to do Shakespeare. It's not obvious Oscar bait, but it clearly falls right into the Academy's ballpark. But just because it does have the ingredients for Oscar, is it really Oscar worthy? Let's find out. It has to be said that even if Eva Lovelace feels like an alter ego of Katharine Hepburn, Kate's performance does never give the impression of what is often described as an actor or actress simply playing him or herself. Her Eva certainly does seem to inhabit Kate's self-assuredness, but she is still an independent and sought-out creation. Maybe related to Katharine Hepburn, but not just a copy.
I've acted ever since I was a child. My parents objected, of course, to my having a career. Parents always do, I believe.
And I understand the choices that Katharine Hepburn made in her performance. The script for Morning Glory is actually not offering her a lot. The movie never gives a sense of who Eva is, but only who she wants to be, and leaves many questions surrounding her character unanswered. Katharine Hepburn therefore downright attacked the role with a noticeable and surprising style, making Eva a very direct, even pushy character, rushing through her lines as if she is constantly trying to prevent any objection to her words and trying to convince herself of them as well.
There's one person in the whole world I prayed particularly to meet, it's you.
Thank you. You've been on the stage long?
Not the regular stage, but I was in a lot of plays the Franklin Theatre Guild gave at the Little Theatre.
The Little Theatre?
Yes, at Franklin, Vermont, where I lived until some time ago. The Franklin papers, both of them agreed that I had a future.
This line delivery and her slightly affected voice are the most distinct aspect of Kate's performance. She herself apparently came up with this idea while watching a stage performance by Ruth Gordon and decided that her Eva should be constantly, quote, monotone of voice and observing everything around her.
And I'm a big fan of Ruth Gordon. I think was a brilliant actress. I learned a hell of a lot from her. And I won the award copy. I still called her and said I should send you this award because there it is, it's you.
Eva Lovelace and Camille, for instance, or Eva Lovelace and Romeo and Juliet sounds very distinguished, doesn't it? I don't want to use my family name because I should probably have several scandals while I live, and I don't want to cause them any trouble until I'm famous when nobody will mind. That's why I must decide on something at once while there's still time before I'm famous.
It is an approach that surprises the viewer at first and certainly catches your attention, especially as Eva's voice is so unlike Kate's usual deeper tone, and therefore a distinct artistic choice and makes everything about Eva strangely intriguing at first. But it unfortunately begins to feel repetitive and one-dimensional very quickly. mainly because Kate's voice is usually her strongest tool that can make words be comedic or dramatic or threatening with just a slight change of emphasis and delivery.
Millions of years ago, dinosaurs fed on the leaves of those trees. The dinosaurs are vegetarians, that's why they became extinct. They were just too gentle for their size. And then the carnivorous creatures, the ones that eat flesh, the killers, inherited the earth. But then they always do, don't they?
Well, what family doesn't have its ups and downs?
It's what makes many of her performances so memorable and unique, and therefore reducing this quality to a never-ending repetition of the same, uninspired way of talking immediately destroys the engaging effect that Katharine Hepburn usually displays on the screen.
I can get on $20 a week. I need more for my lessons. Also, I owe my German teacher at home a large sum, but my debts can wait. I'll play any part that appeals to me for $20.
The truth is that Eva Lovelace is neither a well-written nor an interesting character. She does not only feel repetitive due to Kate's acting, but also due to the fact that Morning Glory too often puts her in the same kind of scene and situation, in which Eva obviously tries to hide her insecurities and her desperation to make it on the stage behind a thin layer of self-assuredness.
You're a lucky little girl to be busy these days. It's been a pretty hard winter on Broadway for most people. Let me see, the last time I saw you...
Well, I was rehearsing for the Frolics. Of course, I just took that chorus work for the experience. One needs all sorts of experience, and there'd been sort of a lull in the drama.
Are you working now?
Well, not exactly, but I've been promised an engagement in some Shakespearean repertoire on the road next spring if nothing else turns up.
And Katharine Hepburn clearly tried to fight these limitations by giving her a unique spin to make her stand out among similar portrayals of young women trying to make it in show business. And this makes it actually difficult to judge this performance, because Katharine Hepburn's approach to that part did give Eva more layers than are intended by the script, but due to the single-mindedness of her characterization, each of these layers still feels rather empty and flat, therefore never creating a truly three-dimensional person.
Darling, you've got to pull yourself together.
Joseph, I wanted to kill myself when I didn't see him or hear from him. I didn't see any reason to go on.
Poor kid.
I couldn't make good. I did all sorts of things, trying to pretend myself was all a sort of joke, just experience. That I'd make up for it all by being wonderful someday.
You will tonight.
Joseph told me just now that he loved me. And I begged him not to say it. And no, I wish I hadn't, because I'm lonely. Lonely now in the moment I've lived for and dreamed for.
Kate's approach to Eva maybe helped to let her ambition and naive ideas of stardom become understandable, but too often made her character feel out of place within the structure of the story. Her one-dimensional focus on Eva's intrusive nature lacks the necessary believability in her engagement with other characters. The New York Times described Eva as a little irrational, but she actually often comes across as an almost bizarre creation that would most likely be unable to connect with other characters in the way the script is suggesting.
Would anybody mind if I went and sat down by that gentleman who was going to wait?
The same words that were used to describe Kate, eccentric and unusual, might also apply to Eva, but in her case, this does not make her compelling or interesting.
My star shall never set, I've sworn that too. And when that moment comes, when I feel that I've done my best, my very best, I shall really die by my own hand some night at the end of the play, on the stage. Well, I could have married for money if I'd wanted to. Edwin Talbot, the son of W.E. Talbot, one of the richest men in Franklin, wanted me to marry him. You've heard of W.E. Talbot, the Chow Chow King, they call him? Funny. Talbot's Chow Chow is famous, of course. Practically owns Franklin.
Still, despite this limited approach to the part, there are some singular moments of beauty and humanity in Kate's work. Most of all, I appreciate the fact that Kate gave Eva her own brand of independence, despite a script that basically denies her these qualities. Eva does have a one-night stand with Adolf Menjou, theater producer, but she never makes it seem as if she only wants to use him to get ahead, or that she is later only given her breakthrough role due to this connection. Her seriousness in regards to her craft that she displayed earlier in the movie makes the audience believe that Eva would never accept the part without feeling that she earned it, or that she would use an affair to get what she wants.
It's like two rivers flowing through the same valley to the same sea. His life and mine. Now they're to flow together. I shall make him very proud of me, Joseph.
There is a touching honesty in her work here, clearly displaying that the feelings Eva has for this man are true but still independent from her love for the theater, and when her hopes for a relationship are destroyed, Kate finds more dimensions and growth in her character in a single close-up than in all her on-screen time before.
Why, you are the most valuable piece of theatrical property I've ever had.
I understand.
Unfortunately, the chemistry between Kate and her co-stars is largely unsatisfying. Something that is unusual for Kate, who so often shared miraculously believable relationships with her screen partners, but in Morning Glory, they all remain very superficial and feel too rushed and underdeveloped in her work to make any true impact. However, it has to be said that her most famous scene in Morning Glory has rightfully earned its reputation as also being her best. A scene that was described as perhaps the finest bit of versatile acting the screen has ever seen, when Eva drunkenly recites Shakespeare at a party. It works so well because Katharine Hepburn perfectly captures the change in tone. From a rather disappointing drunk scene, complete with cliched slurred speech and affected body movements.
I love to walk and walk and look and look. Now you see, in Franklin, if you walk and walk, you'll get way out on a country road where there's nothing but great big trees and fields.
She suddenly switches to Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet, and does so without making it feel like a big moment for herself, only for Eva suddenly grabbing all attention with an earnest but not out of place display of beauty and talent, giving a quick glimpse into her talents and making her later scenes of success more acceptable.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father, and refuse thy name. Or if thou wilt not, be but sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a captivate. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die. To sleep. To sleep. Perchance to dream.
It's overall commendable that Katharine Hepburn brought Eva to life without simply resting on her own personality, aka simply playing herself, and gave her a distinct and unique humanity. And obviously, showing this kind of versatility at the beginning of her career was an important decision for her later success. But she unfortunately also missed many chances to give more depth and inner life to Eva, surrendering to the limitations of the role without noticing it, and only occasionally giving a short look inside the woman she could have been. It's therefore an interesting approach to the role, but not an interesting performance, one that remains strangely unsatisfying and lifeless, and stays too often on the surface of a character that could have been far more stirring and alive if it had been given more of Kate's incomparable energy.
Au revoir, Royal Empress.
Doesn't Antony call Cleopatra the loveliest things? Au revoir.
So here's my ranking of the nominees.
I don't want to behave badly.
You? You couldn't behave badly.
Oh, how funny. Robert said that to me years and years ago. It was the Boer War then. This is all so different.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, darling. Take care of yourself. Try to see your father on the way.
Yes, if I can. Goodbye.
Goodbye. You seem to have been the only one who's understood me through it all, Joseph. You've always been ready to help me. I don't know, things have been happening so fast I hardly know where I am. Once I thought Mr. Easton loved me. That seems awfully long ago. You've always been awfully good to me, Joseph. Why?
I'll tell you why. I love you.
Oh, Joseph, Joseph.
All you got to do is to say that I'm dead. That ought to be easy enough. Oh, that isn't going to do the hotel any harm. Mrs. E. Worthington Manville passed away last week. That's simple enough. Oh, yes. And say there was a funeral, a big funeral, and lots of flowers. And all the prominent people came. And if they should ask about Mr. Manville, just say that he was so broken up that he had to take a trip around the world for a year. No, make it 2 years. That'll do the trick. Pretty slick, isn't it?
To be honest, this is probably one of my least favorite Best Actress lineups ever. May Robson is an easy winner here, but would not be my top choice in most other years. While she obviously did the best she could, she still suffers strongly from her limited material that actively holds her back in her work.
Now leave me alone, I'm all right. Okay. There's nothing the matter with me, I'm all right.
Diana Wynyard and Katharine Hepburn, on the other hand, had parts that provided many opportunities, but both actresses never took them and ultimately gave two unfortunately rather flat and uninspired performances.
Now, sometimes I think I'm very, very, very bad. No good. Tonight I think I'm wrong when I think that.
It feels that, like with Bette Davis, the Academy was too eager to award a new and obviously talented actress. In both cases, they could have waited a couple of years when there were far better opportunities to do so. But Kate's win in 1933 obviously does make a lot of sense. In regards to her performance, in regards to her rise to stardom, and in regards to her competitors. And since she is my favorite actress, I don't want to complain about her win as it helped her to become Oscar's most honored performer. But Morning Glory is not among my favorite performances of her and one that I can only describe as disappointing. But to be honest, this is a word that can be used to certain levels for both of her co-nominees as well. Thank you for watching. If you have any opinions on these performances, please let me know below or on Twitter.